Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Classic Gamer 74. I'm your host, Anthony Gamer.
And I'm Larry the Lion.
And in today's episode, we're going to have our first about the prototypes for the Atari 5200.
When the Atari 5200 was released in 1982, one of its marketing campaigns was that it was twice as powerful as the 2600, thus the name. Aside from this, it did have some hardware issues, one of which was the non-centering joystick, which, to be honest with you, I can't think of any other game system that does that.
I've had a couple computer joysticks that did that.
Oh, okay. But anyway, besides that, there were some other hardware issues, which we won't really get into at this moment. It did come out with the 4-port joysticks. As you see there in the picture, you were actually able to play 4 players at the same time, kind of like what you had in the 2600 with the paddle controls. Nowadays, people that own 5200s have done a lot of work refurbishing them. Besides making new custom-made joysticks, there were a couple other things that were needed to make the system what it could have and should have been back in the day.
Let me just say that all of the problems that the Atari 5200 had, none of these problems had anything to do with the software. As a matter of fact, I believe, and quite a few other people believe, that the Atari 5200 had some of the best games out there.
Yeah, like at that time, everyone talked about how great the games were for Intellivision, and but mostly ColecoVision.
Right.
But I'll tell you what, the Intellivision or ColecoVision didn't hold a candle to the 5200 when it came for quality of games.
Exactly.
And that is one reason why the prototypes for the 5200 as compared to many of the ones for the 2600 are just high quality. Many of these games were totally completed and ready to be released. And because of the power of the 5200, the quality of these games were second to none, even the prototypes.
The main two reasons that all of the games featured in today's 5200 list and in the ones to come are because of the Tramio takeover of Atari and because of the collapsing game market. Ultimately, the 5200 and all of its games were canceled. And unfortunately, a lot of good games were actually canceled before they were released. And that is what this list and others coming soon are about. So without further ado, let's get started. You ready, Larry?
I'm ready when you are.
Okay, let's get to it then.
Alright, and our first game for today is AE from 1984, originally released by Broederbund. Now, of course, many of you know who Broederbund is. That is the game company that gave us such great games as Karateka, Carmen Sandiego,
and don't forget the most important thing they ever made, Print Shop.
Oh yeah, that was something that parents hated, and teachers as well, as a lot of us ran out the ink in their printers, printing up signs, posters, and cards, and all kinds of cool stuff. Anyway, this game was never really announced. It just kind of was found, as it did not appear in any Atari catalogs or any internal documents. Now, this is an arcade-style shooter. You have these evil stingrays that are coming out, and you gotta blast them.
When I first played this game, I thought, it looks like a computer game. Well, that's because it was. It was actually released for the Apple II computer 2 years before it was going to be released for the Atari 5200, making this one of the first games to be ported from a computer and not the arcade first.
In a previous episode, I talked about the tie-in to the movie Cloak and Dagger. That many of you that have seen the movie saw the little boy playing the game Cloak and Dagger on his 5200. You actually saw the 5200 cartridge. Well, another game that was featured in the movie that never did get a release was Tempest.
Alright, I'm going to play the game right now. Fire.
Larry,
Yeah.
you notice something?
Well, it looks quite a bit like the arcade with the vector graphics.
Yeah, but there is no collision detection.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I've got some good news for some of you that have a working 5200. You can go over to AtariAge.com right now, as they, along with Keithan Hyanga, the original programmer, and Michael Kosaka, have made a working, completed version of Tempest. So you can play this tube shooter game the way it was originally meant to be, including, of course, with collision detection. So for $35, head over to AtariAge.com and purchase your own copy of the complete Tempest. Alright, and the next game we have on our list is Black Belt from 1983. This game was originally supposed to be called Martial Arts. It was programmed by Alan Moss Sr. with graphics by Alan Murphy. Now, in this game, you are walking through this castle and picking fights with different ninjas. Really a cool game, one that was probably the first of its type, as it would be many years before a really good martial arts game would actually be released. Now, what I find really interesting about this game is that you actually use the 5200 number pad to do your moves. So you have 9 different moves that you can use during the course of the game. Yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it, Larry?
Yeah, there's one slight problem here.
What's that?
Actually, 2.
What are those?
No sound,
Right.
and no collision detection.
Exactly.
Wow, that's too bad.
Yeah, it really is. I would really like to see this game, among others, be finished because this probably would have been a really cool game. Unfortunately, like I said, all you can really do is walk around the castle and kick and punch and not do any damage. You can walk around all you want and explore the castle, but that's all you can do at this point in time. Let's just hope someday that somebody does finish this game so we can see exactly what it would have been like. I'm excited for that. How about you?
Oh, yeah.
All right, next up we have Frisky Tom from 1983. This game was never actually advertised in any of the 5200 literature or catalog. Again, it was one that was just kind of found by accident. Now, this game was actually based on a really obscure arcade game. Honestly, I had never even heard of it until I was doing research for my channel here, but the game itself is pretty fun, so let's check it out. Alright, in this game you take on the role of Tom the plumber. Now, some rats have climbed into the plumbing in this apartment building and have knocked out some of the pipes, so therefore nobody is getting water. Of course, your job is to restore water to the people in the building. Problem is that some of the rats are quite deadly, especially the red ones, and if they hit you, they kill you. So you will have a limited amount of time to restore water to the building. If you are successful in restoring water, you will get a chance to look at a woman in the bathtub with bubbles. Don't get yourself too excited. She's actually wearing a bikini. But that's pretty much the premise of the game.
Now, the 5200 version of the game is quite playable. Actually, I think it's pretty much finished.
Yeah, I do too.
But one of the problems is that it gets really, really hard really quick.
It sure does. Another thing to keep in mind, if you're going to play this game and you have the ROM, remember, do not use CAT 5200. This game will not work on that emulator. The best emulator to play this game on is Altera, the one that you probably use for playing your Atari 8 games. But again, if you really would like to try this game out, please use Altera, because if you use CAT 5200, the game will lock up within a few seconds of playing. Okay, so we have Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, and next we have Junior Pac-Man. This was originally released in the arcade in 1984 and was going to be programmed by GCC for the Atari 5200 and 2600.
Now, interestingly enough, the 2600 version of this game was released, but the 5200 version was not. So let's check it out.
One thing that sets Junior Pac-Man apart from all the other Pac-Man games is that you have a scrolling maze, which makes the game much more difficult, but also a lot more fun. And it's kind of hard sometimes for you to remember which areas you've gotten and which you haven't. Keeping a quick eye on the bonus prize, which in this game is usually a tricycle, because you got to catch it pretty quickly, because if you don't, it will turn your dots into big dots, and which actually slow you down. Also keep in mind that tricycle will eat up your power pellets, so please make sure that you grab that sucker as quick as you can. It's a fast-paced, fun game, and it's really a shame it wasn't released. Alright, and next up we have Last Starfighter from 1984, programmed by Gary Stark and Bruce Folman. Now, in this particular game, you take on the role of the Starfighter. Now, many of you have probably seen the movie. If you haven't, go out and see it. The movie is really, really cool. Now, if this game looks a little familiar to you, it probably should, because this game was actually tweaked a little bit and released as Star Raiders 2 for the Atari computer. Originally, when the movie came out, they had planned on making game tie-ins for the movie on all three of the systems, the 2600, the 5200, and the Atari 8-bit. Unfortunately, the movie was not a box office success as they kind of thought it would be, so the game was actually tweaked a little bit and changed into other things. For instance, when the game was released for the 2600, it became Solaris. This version for the 5200 itself was never actually released, but was, like I said, tweaked a little bit to become Star Raiders 2. Had the movie been a bigger success, this probably would have gotten released, and probably the game itself would have been a big hit. Personally, I think they really missed out on a potentially great game, and I don't think that the people that haven't seen Last Starfighter are missing out on a great movie. Yes, it's an 80s movie, but I'll tell you, it still holds up to this day. And again, like I said, a great movie and a great game. It's just too bad that this game was never released, like so many others for the 5200. You know, Larry, I was talking to my daughter a couple weeks ago, and you know what she asked me?
What?
She asked me, why didn't they make a Beatles video game?
Yeah, that would have been kind of cool, especially after Yellow Submarine.
Yeah, my daughter really loved that movie, like most people I think that have ever seen it did. She's quite the artist herself and a Beatles fan. And so I explained to her they kind of started a Beatles game.
Started?
Well, take a look and see what you think.
That's it?
Yep, that's pretty much all you get. Just a submarine going around and no sound, no game. They're not really sure if this was created for just teaching tool or what, or they were planning on having a Beatles game. Nobody really knows, but you get to drive the yellow submarine around. Yep, we all live in a yellow submarine.
Well, that brings us to the end of another exciting episode of Classic Gamer 74. I really hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give us a great big thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. And don't forget to leave some comments down below and let us know what you thought about today's episode. I'd really like to know what you have to say.
A while back, one of our loyal viewers suggested that I have more walkthrough episodes. Well, that's exactly what I'm going to do. In next episode, I'm going to show you how to beat Riddle of the Sphinx. This was a game by Imagic, and a lot of people had trouble with this game, but I'm going to show you how to beat it. So stay tuned, because you will not want to miss that. And guess what? It is that time again for the Atari Awards. So, this year we have several nominees, many of them friends of this channel, in games that you have seen on this channel. There are Homebrew Awards for the 2600, 5200/Atari 8, and 7800. So, go over to AtariAge.com, go into the forums, and look under Atari Homebrew Awards, and you can actually download the ROMs to check the games out, and then go back and vote for your favorite games. The award show will be broadcast on Twitch on February 1st, 2020, so you will not want to miss that. So head over to Atari Age right now and cast your vote for your favorite homebrew games.
All right, until next time, I am Anthony Gamer,
And I'm Larry the Lion.
and we will see you guys in the next episode. Until then, have yourselves a great day. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.